All right. Hopefully everyone can see that all right. Let's see. All right. So let's see. I think that I'd like to talk about here is the value of linking on your Mac, right? And there's a lot to say about this stuff, but really just kind of starting at a high level, if you think about what it is that is on your computer, and really you have all kinds of information on your computer, documents, pictures, projects, browser bookmarks, spreadsheets, email, notes. I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff. And we've accumulated this stuff over decades. We have computers that hold terabytes of information, and when we're loaded up with this stuff. So, but the OS is, how do they organize it, right? I mean, fundamentally, the OS has been doing this for a long time, and they use files, right? Files, they're organized in folders, they're organized in different drives, they're organized on network drives or cloud services, thumb drives, all kinds of things, but essentially files and folders are the basic ways that information has been organized since computers began. And apps is a kind of a higher level layer on top of this, right? Lots of apps, they manage their own proprietary files. You may or may not have access to them, but there's lots of apps with lots of your data and sitting there as well. Just think about how the internet organizes things, and it isn't the same. The internet uses links, right? Search engines use links. They find the information with links. They report the information with links. Everything is fundamentally based on a link, and hypertext is part of that. So yeah, internet's built on hypertext. And why don't we use this on our computers? Why are we still stuck in the pre-internet model of how our information is organized and accessed? So that's what I'll talk about. Is some apps are starting to make linking between things a lot easier than it ever has been. And so there's some apps that will do this, and I'll talk about a couple of them tonight. But before we get too far into the applications, I do want to kind of think about and clarify what a note actually is. And so, what is a note? And I would say, when we traditionally think of notes, pre-computers is just a reminder, a sticky, a checklist, not, something I'm going to the, for a walk. I don't know, just not very much information. But nowadays notes can be a lot more than that. I mean, notes fundamentally are information we want to keep. And this can be little tiny bits of information. It could be a long paper, right? And but notes is really, on a computer, notes, we can include media like pictures and video and audio, checklists and links, and it can be basically a web page, right? I mean, you can have a lot of information on there. And so I would think that what I'm saying is, when I'm talking about a note-taking application, is really more about, I would cross out the word note and say an information management system, right? And your notes are just the kind of the glue that cements these different pieces together and kind of puts in your flavor and puts in your value of what you think is important about this particular collection of things. So when you link notes, linking notes is where things get really powerful. And like linking, like when we went from on the internet, right? That's our model for linking. We went from back pre-internet, there were dial-up BBSs, right? You could do one at a time, and if you knew their phone number, and you could go there, right? But there was no such thing as linking. But then with linking on the internet, it became so much easier to navigate between the different things we wanted. And so that's really important. I mean, this has fundamentally made all those little individual pieces way more powerful as a whole than they were as little pieces. And so the idea of taking and bringing this idea back from the internet and using it as a kind of a first-class citizen on your computer can really amplify the value of the information on your computer. So talk about Obsidian, and Obsidian is one of the two applications I want to discuss because it is a note-taking app, and the reason what it does more than anything else is it allows you to easily link between any number of notes. So, there's a lot of reasons to use it, but I think linking is the primary thing, and that's kind of the point of this conversation. So there are more things about it that's important. It's not just the Mac. You can have that same data sync to your iPhone and your iPad. So, and that can be really powerful. I'm pretty amazed to be able to go somewhere and have like, thousands of my notes available on my phone. That's exactly the same thing I would have on my computer. And it's not only Mac, iPhone, and iPad, but it's also Windows, it's also Linux, it's also Android. I mean, it works on everything. So your data is very transportable this way. The data is local. This is not a cloud service, right? This is not Dropbox or anything where it's essentially lives on someone else's computer or is required to be on someone else's computer. And because of that, it's fast. Your data is on your machine. You have privacy. You do not have to wonder about, if I'm storing business files in this thing and the businesses are very privacy sensitive, would they object to me using this app? Because, someone might see our plans, right? But with this case, it's on your computer. It's only on your computer unless you stick it into Dropbox or something offline. Plus, you don't need the internet to keep access to it. And also the lifetime. I mean, once it lives on your machine, you don't have to worry about a company or service going down and you're losing your access to your data. And people take that risk, right? I mean, people who have things on Evernote and Notion and these things where it lives in there, that the company goes down, you could lose some of that information. It's a note-taking app, but it's a rich note-taking app, and that means you can put in pictures, you can put in audio, video, PDFs, and drop them into a note, and much like a web page, but it's much easier to navigate. Also, it's something that's future-proofed. One is, like I said, you have the data local, but you also have the fact that each of these notes is created as something called Markdown. And Markdown is a text-based notation that, and because of that, because it is pure plain text, it will always be readable by pulling up any of these files that you have into any text editor, and it'll be completely readable in there. So even if this program were to go away, your data is still perfectly good as it's a bunch of text files. It's also free for personal use. Amazingly enough, the way that the developers make money on Obsidian is that they offer two services extra. One is a syncing service, which is highly optimized, works really well, and is available for a monthly fee. But if you don't feel like using theirs, you can use iCloud, an iCloud directory that's synced. You can use a Dropbox, any number of things like this. so you do have options, and they're okay with that. Their sync service does work quicker than the other ones, but the other ones do work. So it offers quite a lot. So I'm going to switch over to sharing Obsidian itself and show you kind of what it looks like and what a note looks like in it. All right, so I'm going to do is I'm pulled up here a note that I've done. Now, this is Obsidian that I'm in, and I've got it set so that everything is rather enlarged so that people can read this on it. But normally, it's not quite such a big text. You can set it to whatever you'd like, however. You have these two sidebars that are panels that expand and with different features available on them with tabs across it. You can switch between on this side. Let's see, you can go ahead and you can have a list of files that you have in your, that Obsidian is keeping track of for you. So I'll scroll through this. This is a little fragment of a book, notes on a book I read that I put together. And so you can see you have different sizes of text. You have, an image in here. You have a link here to a website itself. If I click that, I'll go to actually the website for that book. I have a little checklist of things to do related to this book. And then I can go through and do or add okay. So you can have to-do items in your note. You can also have this thing here, which is called a call out. And it's a way to help. Maybe I like to use them to put my own personal notes in there that are kind of separated by color and everything that kind of indicates some summary or whatever, but you can use whatever titles and they can be different colors. So you might have one that's red and says, warrant or alert, need to finish this by when, for example. So of course they have bullets. You can have there are bullet points in there. It's very easy. You have bold, you have italics, and so you don't have everything involved in a full-on word processor, but you have enough to do everything you're seeing here and more than this. You can do highlighting, and then you have links as well. So. And you can also, I've also embedded a YouTube link in here to an interview with the author. So this is one note that I have, and your notes do not need to be as elaborate. I'm just trying to show you what kind of things you can do with a note. And this is without any extra plugins or any extra features at all. This is just the bare bones Obsidian capability. It can do a lot more if you want to add plugins, which are very easy to do, but this is the basic stuff I'm talking about here. So links, we'll get into this more, but this highlighted thing is just a link to a different note, and I can click on it and I'm at this next note. And then it's like a browser, I can go back to the back area, navigate back, and go back to my prior note. So I think that, any questions about what a note is on Obsidian? Okay, I'll move on. Let's see. Now,
Dan, excuse me. You mentioned Markdown a couple times. Do you have to write this in Markdown? Do you have to use Markdown to do this, or is there another way?
That's what I'll get into next.
All right. Okay.
you do use Markdown, but you really need to know very little to make it to do pretty much everything I've done here. So, and to clarify, Markdown is, let's see, let me just create a new note here. So if I hit Command for a new note, and I can give it a new title, test notes, and I can start typing. Sure. Now, it's just text, right? There's nothing particularly fancy about this thing. And then, but if you do want formatting, and that's really all Markdown is how things are formatted. I can say copy something. Oh, you know, I do have tabbed interface here. So say maybe copy this here to here. Okay, but let's say I want to put a title in here. And I want to, so what I do, and the Markdown notation for a header is a £, and I can put £, a space, and then I can put in what the title is. Okay, and this is the top level header. And then if I wanted to have like a subheader, instead of typing just one £, I'd type 2. And I can have as many as I want. Okay, so that's right there is about, there's not much, there's a lot, you don't need to know too much more. I mean, essentially you can say, if you want bold, you can just come to highlight something and press Command B, just like you do in a word processor. And it puts around, it does the notation for you for bold, which is 2 asterisks around the thing that's going to be bolded. Now notice when I'm moving the cursor around here, if I'm not over something that's formatted, it's just everything shows up as formatted. If I move my cursor where the formatted item is, it shows me the notation that makes it formatted. So I could go and delete that stuff, and then it was no longer formatted. What this is useful for is it lets you format it, but you don't have to see the formatting all the time. And the reason you do this at all, and the reason there's formatting at all, is this allows the file to be pure plain text. And that makes it very readable, very future-proofed, and flexible to be able to do things like the headers and like links in order to have a little bit of things that that you can control. So you can make things italicized with just 1 asterisk around them, and then I don't know, there's really not too much more that you, and then linking is by hitting the open break twice, and I can say link to, let's say, the original, and you can see as I type, it knows all the files that I have, and it just kind of picks the one that seems to know what I might be looking for in here, and I can just hit that, and it will just replace it, and then that is a link. So it's super easy to create links to things. So let's say just like that. And that way I don't have to remember exactly what it was. I don't have to stop and open the Finder and see what the name is of the file and drag it in and all that stuff. I just type those 2 open braces, and then I can look through the files and say, or just start typing it to eliminate it. So start with M and starts finding the things with M, and MAD, and it says Madrid. These are the files that I happen to have that start with MAD. And then that just creates a link. So and then I can click it and go to that file. So the idea is to just make it as easy as possible to go from one note to another. And yeah, so let's see.
So would those files be any file on your computer, or just text files created by Obsidian?
That's a really good question. And how this works is Obsidian keeps track of its stuff. So Obsidian is somewhat constrained, and it doesn't think that every file on your system is its own to keep track of. There's a concept on Obsidian called a vault. And a vault is really, the reality of the vault is, right here, I've got a vault called travel demo, and that's all the files in here are in that vault. Now, what it is that the vault is really just a folder. And it's not a folder buried deep in your system. It's a folder that you created, that you told it where to go. And let's see, if I go to, I can say reveal in Finder. So this is a folder, and you can see that it's in my documents. It's in my documents travel demo folder, right? I could have created this anywhere, but all these files you see in this list are just literally MD files on my hard drive, and they're literally just text files. And I don't know what this, if you can see, but you can actually read what's here, right? It is still pure text. So in answer to your question, you set up a vault, and every folder and subfolder and file in that vault or that folder will be considered by Obsidian. It'll keep track of it, and it will let you link between them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
What is an MD file?
Markdown.
Oh, I see. I see.
I mean, you can open these things with, say, TextEdit.
Right.
Or anything else. It's just text. I mean, it is anything that would read a TXT file will read this. And Markdown is not a unique file format to Obsidian. It's actually something that is used pretty widely by web authors as like a tiny subset of HTML.
Right.
And it's used in, I don't know, Reddit uses it. A lot of any internet forums tend to use this stuff. A lot of website construction, I mean, Squarespace, things like this will also use Markdown as an option.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm a little. Kenji asked my question and he understood your answer, but I didn't quite catch it.
Okay.
So the folder that you've got here was just a folder in Finder, and it was made up of, happened to be Markdown, but it could be TextEdit files also?
Yeah, I think you can tell it that right now, what I do is I can do it here. I'll show you how to create one. So Obsidian, say open vault. I can either create a new vault, I can open a folder as a vault.
Okay.
Or if you have Obsidian Sync, you can actually pull the files down from Obsidian Sync into your folder.
Yeah, no, my question was about the open folder as vault. That explains it. So you just open for TextEdit or other info. I can do, okay, all right.
And that's a really great thing about Obsidian. I mean, it does some amazing things, but really your data is is all it really cares about. And it's not being absorbed in some sort of database that you can never get access to this information again without the program, right? These are things just sitting here. You could drag more in from somewhere else, and it'll pick them up, and you can delete them. It will not bother the program. You can back these up with Time Machine. You can You can put them on Git. It doesn't really care. It's just text files, and every time Obsidian starts just monitoring these things, and it will just keep track of everything in this folder.
So do those vault folders need to be only markdown files?
No, they don't. Actually, here's where it gets interesting, right? I've got this folder in here called attachments, and say if I want to have, say, in the OneNote, I did have some media in there, right? So if I go in here, I go to the Finder, I've got some demo files, and if I go to, say, I've got a PDF here, I'm just going to drag that PDF, and I want to put it right here in the document. Okay, so now I dragged and put in this Apple PDF from their website on conservation efforts. And so what happened when I drug it in here, it still is in the original folder that I pulled it from, right? It didn't move. But what it did is it copied it into the attachments folder. All right, so but the nice thing is I could, if I wanted to, I could just delete this and just have it live in the attachment folder in Obsidian, because it's sitting here, right here. And you can use this for, emailing it. I mean, it's not locked away from you. And if you want to delete it, you can go ahead and delete it right out of the attachments thing. All it'll happen is it says, oh, is the PDF I was looking for isn't just not there. You can create one. So that's what I like about it. I mean, this stuff, most programs that handle a lot of data like to throw things in their own proprietary database, and you can never get them out. Or if you do, it's like a lot of manual work. But here you own all these directories. You tell it what directories you want these things to go to. You can set it up to do other kind of ways when you hand it, non-text data of where it puts it. You can have it put in the subdirectory of wherever you are in, or I don't know. It has a lot of options. So, but what I would suggest is that you're not going to start Obsidian and then just point it at some directory that has no structure and no markdown files and expect it to be useful. Really, you want to create a vault. You want to start creating markdown files. And you want to start dragging in the things you want to keep track of in your notes.
Right.
So it's not that it would bulk or anything. It's just going to be hard to organize things when you start with a giant bunch of files that Obsidian has no notes to. I mean, you can, let's see, I can go to the attachment folder here in Obsidian and click on. I did delete the PDF. I'll move it back. I'll drop it back in. I'm going to delete the reference to it. Drag this back in. Right now it's back in the attachments folder. It's right here. You can click on it and you can see it just outside of the context of the note I put it in. You can just see the PDF right here in Obsidian. So, but what's nice is by putting your non-text stuff in a separate directory, it helps you keep track of what is an actual note and what is something that is in a note. So that's what I like that. And then you can also, if you have things that you are doing that work on text files only, if you can keep your text files only separate, I mean, because these are text files, you can use Git with them, or you can do some sort of text mangling thing with a command line. It doesn't, whatever you could do, it's possible. But you don't have to worry about it. You can organize it in such a way like this, where the binary files are kept in a slightly separate place. So, okay, I think we'll go back to here, and I'll talk a little bit about the move away from the files a little bit, and then talk really about the headers. I showed you where, if you look, you can see like £1 sign is the top level header. £2 signs is the next level down. So you can see most of these are 2. But you can also go here when you get long documents, you can look at the outline and you can see just the headers here. This is really kind of like a skeletal view of this note. And you can collapse sections, right? Or you can just navigate through them and then say, I want to take a look at that section, and it'll navigate you down to that part. I don't know if this will do it, but there are definitely attachments where you can actually drag these around, and it drags the whole section around your document. So it's nice when you have a lot of stuff. You can also collapse in here. You can collapse this section. So if I'm not really interested in, if I'm really just trying to connect 2 things that are distant, or I don't want to read that part right now, I can just collapse those sections. So having different header levels has some value here, as you can see. Let's see. Now, all right, so we went through and created a note. Now what I have here in these notes, I mean, I've got a number of things that I created, and this is really kind of the idea is I put together a lot of individual notes that are related to something where I might want to take a trip, and I'm looking at different places to go, and I've put in notes on different things. So let's say the top. So I've got a places to visit note, and so I'm kind of trying to think between it. If I'm going to go to the UK, well, I go to London, Edinburgh, Lake District, or when I go to Spain, maybe Barcelona, Seville, or Madrid, right? And so I think that, so I can click on my link here to London, and it will go to my London note. And then London note has links to other notes of like the British Museum, and I can click on that. I'm at the British Museum note. And these things are things that I might have sat down and researched, right? I can think of a new place, and I can write, and I can start, I can just change the name to Stonehenge. And I don't know, so I can go and do Google searches, and I can drop in images, and I can find out information about it and just plop them in this note. And then I can go back to the note of, what I was, okay, so. I can go say, oh yeah, Stonehenge, right? So I don't know, it's pretty natural to me to use. I think, I don't know how people look at this when you aren't accustomed to this. I mean, does this make sense in what I'm doing or how it works?
I get a little bit, it makes sense on one level. It's interesting to see what you can do. But
Yeah.
I end up with questions like, okay, to do a link, you did 2 open brackets.
Right.
And then do you do 2 open brackets, and then you write the content, and then you put 2 open brackets on the left, I mean, on the right side of the word also, and then how do you get it to link? Maybe that's a really dumb question, but that's.
No, it's not. It's a great question. I mean, let's do that, because I mean, all I did, I'm going to hit the open bracket once and the open bracket twice. And you see it already closed it for me and my cursor's right in the middle. And I've got a list of all my files that are right here that I could just start scrolling through if I wanted to pick it that way. But I might have hundreds of files or even thousands, right? So the nice thing is if I just remember, well, you know, it was something that started with, or just something else about London. Oh yeah, there's London public transport, London Eye. So as I'm typing this stuff, it starts to immediately winnow down my choices to help me find what I'm looking for without me searching,
Okay.
just typing, right?
From
So
from files within the vault that you're working in.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many vaults do you work with, Dan? Do you have
you
do you
know,
have many vaults, or you basically have one master vault?
I have one master vault, right? And also if I'm for work stuff, I would have one work vault and I would have one, you know, personal vault. And the fewer vaults, the better, because you can only link to whatever's in your vault. So you just want to make sure that you don't, you know, break the linking thing by making things too small. I mean, you can create folders within here and you can put projects in them and subfolders and whatever. If you want some differentiation, if you're worried about it being too big, you know, it's easy to break up and it's really good at doing that stuff. But I would keep it down, you know, in most cases to just a one vault, unless you have something where you have a very obvious thing like work and home. So yeah, so all you really need to do is start typing and it will pick out what it thinks you're trying to do, and then you just can quickly find what you need. And it's really great because you don't have to remember the exact name of something. It'll just kind of appear, and then I'll just hit enter and that will complete it for me and it's done.
Okay.
Very similar to Wikimedia.
Exactly. I mean, what you're really doing here is you're building your own little personal wiki between files on your own computer. So exactly.
And using a single bracket, you could put in pretty much any URL you wish to.
That's right. You can create, I mean, just like if I go to the web and I would just say, let's use this site here. I want to link to that. I could say, no, other programs do this too. If you highlight something and push Command K, it does this formatting where you can put in a URL and have a link. Now you see it's put a little box next to it with an arrow out of it. And that means that's an external link. In other words, it's not linking to another Obsidian markdown file. It's going to somewhere outside of Obsidian. You can click on that and it'll take you to the browser and then show you that link. So yeah, so you can definitely link to external URLs, and that's very useful because, I mean, what I've done here is set up something that was more about planning a trip. And so, I mean, you might have this thing as places to visit, but you might also say, you might create another note here. It's like, you know, lights, right? And then you could say, and then you could just go here and then say, just take that URL. And then just start making a list of everything. And it can really just, it can also be something very specific. You know, it could be your email. And it could be an email with a URL to a particular email that you have that actually has your flight details.
Yeah, okay, that was going to be the next question on that, is that using URLs of that sort, you're not limited to just web pages. You could theoretically put any file on your local machine in via a URL, yes?
Yeah, you can. And there is a standard way to do that with a file. I believe that there's like a file, it's a standard Mac way of doing it, right? You're familiar with this?
Right.
But it's rather frail. I don't like using it, and I don't use that myself. There's a better way. The reason it's frail is if you move that file or you rename that file, that link breaks. And so it's super frail. Does the next app I will talk about after I'm done with this is something that does solve that problem, called Hookmark. And you can create links not only to a file that will be resilient. If you move it, if you rename it, if you change it, it'll still link to it. So yeah, there's definitely some valuable stuff out there that will help make it so that you can connect to things on your computer as well as the internet. So yeah, let me go through. I'm going to link some, just make some links in here or show you some things at the where. Okay, now what I see here, I'd like to show you is that I've got a note called Transportation in Madrid. But I also have another note that's just Madrid. Now, what I can do is in the transportation to Madrid, if I wanted to create a link to the Madrid note, all I'd have to do is, I've selected the word Madrid and I just hit that open brace twice. And now I've got a link to the Madrid note. See, so if it's, and even this, if you look over here, it will tell me where I have an unlinked mention where I could create a link in this, that because I have a file that has a name that's mentioned in the document, but is not a link. So unlinked mention, transportation in Madrid. So I could actually come here and it says, oh, link it. And so it found the first one and says, we'll make that a link. Now I don't have to do all these to Madrid, but you can see where it says, oh, I'm finding it, and then I can push a button and then it changes that to a link too. So that's really rather nice when you don't even have to realize that you have, it helps you discover links where you have connections between one node and another node that you didn't even realize, and then it helps you just make that link. So if I go to like Seville, now there's Seville Cathedral, and I can go in here and I can say, well, I should link back to Seville. Then I can have this, should really have a Spain note too. I don't know if I have a Spain note. I notice I'll create a link, but it's not, it's kind of dimmed. And that means there's no actual note there, but they consider it like a virtual note. In other words, you're kind of putting a placeholder or stake in the ground saying, I want there to be a Spain note, but it's not there. I haven't made it yet. So if you do click on this, it'll just go create it for you with nothing in it, right? And you can say, I don't know. So let's go to here. And then I have the attractions that go. But I can link this back to Spain. I can. It's all really about connecting different nodes. And so what I've been doing here is kind of a hierarchical organization, but it really, and for demo purposes, that's the easiest, but really it's much more interesting when it gets to an organic kind of linking between nodes that are not necessarily easily expressed in a hierarchical structure. But when you do have a hierarchical structure, you can create folders, and you can say, create that folder, drag Spain in there, say, put these in. So, no, this is just a straight up, we could be doing this equally well in the Finder because it really doesn't it doesn't mind if you're doing it externally either. So if we were doing this here, we should now see the folder, places to visit, places in Spain, just like I'm doing there. So I just like the fact that it does not fight you when it comes to how you are seeing and organizing your data. Now, there's another feature on here that, of course, like most kind of programs that offer organization by folders, is you can also organize by tags. And so, let's see, I do have an index of tags. So on Barcelona, I have a tag called Spain area. So you can have tags with subtags in them. So say Spain city. Maybe on this one you could say, now it's funny because you have the pound sign as both the header, right? And also it is used for tags. But the difference between a header and a tag is that there's no space between the pound sign of a tag and there is on a header. So, well, when you get in the process of combining things up by organizing them in folder structure and having them have essentially a tag structure that is nested tags and having links, you can make your information far more discoverable. So I think to give a general idea that covers the main thing. What I'd like to talk about now is moving on to using a second program.
Can I ask a question first? Before
yeah, go right ahead.
One is when using headers, are there, because I see in the right sidebar when you have the headers chosen, it creates a nice little almost like outline for you.
Yeah.
Can you go deeper than headers and subheaders?
Oh yeah, you can go, I think, 6 levels deep. So quite a lot.
And my other question is, Do you still use Apple Notes and similar products?
I use, I'm migrating most of my stuff out of it, but there's still places where Apple Notes is useful, and that's with collaboration. And I'd like to show you something with this next product where I can link in Obsidian to an Apple Note, right? I mean, in addition to linking to other Obsidian files, you can also link to, the internet. You can link to files, you can link to folders. So I'd like to show you that. You can link to other applications as well. And that's where it really all starts getting very interesting. So let me think, where do I go from here? Okay. So bookmark. Now, I'll go. Well, I do have an Apple Note, and this is a packing checklist for the trip. Let's say. I'll make a higher level note here. I'll call this okay, and the preparations for trip, what I want to do is I can have say all right, now Hook is a program that gets essentially URIs or links into an application. And so all you really need to do, I have Hook installed, and it's kind of always in the background, and it's waiting for its hotkey to be pressed, just like say Screenshot does. And when you press that key, what it does is it looks to see what application you have in focus and where it's at, and then it gives you it will try to get a link to that and report that back to you. So I've got Apple Notes here with a packing checklist note in it. I'm going to hit the hotkey for it, which as I have it set up is Control H. When I do that, you can see this pop up. It says it's got the little Apple Note icon. It says packing checklist. So I know that it successfully got a link to Apple Notes, the packing checklist. What I can do it, come here and I can say copy as markdown link. Okay, and then I can put that link, paste it right there. You can see it's got the little external mark on it again. Now, if I click on that link, it brings up the Apple Note. So this is what can make it really more than just a collection of notes that link to each other, but you can start to link to other apps that are also involved in your project. So say you might have a shared note that talks about the things you want to do that are involved with somebody that you're delegating to somebody else. And you may also say have your own bunch of project stuff on things. And I'll bring up things and I'll say, well, I have a pre-trip project here. I'm going to hit the hotkey for Hook, Control H. It says, oh, this thing's pre-trip project, and I get markdown link. And then I go here and I say project. Now, maybe just to make this a little more clear, I might just say things pre-trip. And here I might say just for clarity. And so now I can go to, okay, now I've got, here's the project for the trip on things. Here's my shared Apple Note with spouse to go and make sure all these things are done. And you can also have, you might get emails come in, you can get a link to that. And you can also, you don't have Apple Mail set up, but you can do the same kind of thing and get a link to a particular Apple Mail and put it in here. And that will be a resilient link, and not if you end up creating that link and then going ahead and like archiving the file or the email or moving the email to another folder, that link will still work. So most of these things are pretty resilient. Now, also the things that you may be doing when you actually do a trip is, so I might get my flight reservations. So as a document, and I could say drop them in here, and it'd be sitting here. I could also just have that as a link rather than an actual expanded thing where I could click on it and see this. Or I could use Hook to actually create a link to that thing. So I can say, now notice I have Finder in the foreground, and I hit Control H to get the hook to get the link to that. Do the copy, paste. Here's my flight reservation. And it shows it to me now, not in Obsidian, but in preview. I could also, and so if I move that around, it'll still work. If I change directories or, put this to download, say, still opens it. Now, what I find really useful is not just linking individual files, because I usually like to copy them into Obsidian, but if I have a place that's got a folder that has, stuff that's related to my project that I really will be difficult to put into Obsidian, or for some reason doesn't make sense, then I can go here. I'll go ahead and get a link to the folder and copy that. Now that's a link to my Finder, which goes right to the folder that has all the files that are related to my trip. So you step back here and you can see, now I have a note that can be a very high level note that tells me about, that links to all the files that I've done of my own research of where I want to go. It links to maybe Apple Notes about things I'm doing. It might go to my things project, what, the specific pre-planning or the pre-trip preparations, can have any documents related to the reservations put right in here, links to go deeper into what I'm doing. So I could also you could also have like a Kindle book for research stuff, and then I can say I want to do a hook link to that book in Kindle, and you can just drop the link right wherever you want to have it. So I think that's a lot of what I want to show you. I think there's one other thing that
I did have a question, Dan. Like me, I unfortunately I have a lot of files that I pulled together. I link in a situation like this. Let's say you're in preparations for a trip, and unless I misheard you, this SV Mug demo travel files, was that originally in the vault?
No.
Okay. On these things, on this preparation, are any of these things, were they originally in the vault?
No.
Like Apple Notes or things pre-trip?
No, they don't. When I'm using Hook, essentially when you're doing external links, I mean, they can be to websites, they could be anywhere. I mean, that's what these boxes.
I guess where I was going like this is, and it's where I get myself in trouble and some of the stuff I do. for example, you've got the smug demo travel files, for example. And if you went in there, if you open that up, click on that.
Yep.
And you take, I guess what I'm saying, sometimes I have a tendency to change something that was originated somewhere else, but I put in to a later file. You know what I mean?
Sure. Let's try to screw it up.
The original one, I should be changing the original, but I don't, and it's, you know, I get in trouble.
Okay,
You said,
so let's change the name. So I changed the name of the folder, and I'm also going to drop it in somewhere else. I'll drop it into this directory. So I've changed the name and put it in a new place. And so I'll come back here, click on it. It opens up.
okay.
Okay, so it's very resilient, even and it
Yeah.
understands, you know, hey, it found it, you know, it got the name, even though the name changed. Yeah, this is what's great about Hook, is that it really does help you. It does follow things around very nicely. And these hooks, you know, because they are text, you can actually move them. You in the same way that you know, I find that moving these files and syncing these, even the hooks, onto another computer where I'm mirroring things will still work too. So yeah, it's quite capable. And the other little trick I like here is, now I got my trip overview document here in Obsidian, and I'll hit the hook hotkey here. Okay, so now I'm going to get a link for the trip overview page in Obsidian. And I'll come in here, and instead of getting a link to paste somewhere, I'm going to say make hookmark file. Okay, and it creates a little hookmark file. It says trip overview. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that. I'm going to copy that hook file over to my demo directory here. So now, not only do I have a link that goes from my Obsidian document to the folder, but if I didn't have this around and I wondered, you know, as a year has gone by, and I wanted to know, well, where's, you know, what was this stuff all about? I can go and click this hook mark, and it will reopen trip overview in Obsidian. Even if I close Obsidian and have it, it will open it and go to that file. So what I use this for is, instead of putting a README in here, I'll put all the information I want in a master note on Obsidian that might be related to other notes and other things. So this, I kind of drag the content on the README into Obsidian, into a node, and I just create a hookmark file in the directory where I would have had a README. And that way, all my actual useful information is sitting in Obsidian and not scattered all over hard drives and folders everywhere. So
I noticed that when you were making the links to go into Obsidian, you were choosing the markdown link. Is that because you were going to Obsidian? Is that?
That's a good question. And I think what I have experimented with is that it doesn't matter. The regular link, copy link, is almost identical.
Okay.
So.
Oh, except that it's oh no, I see. Okay. It did get abbreviated. It doesn't do the whole.
Different. So this is the hotel one. Yeah, I don't think it turns out it just doesn't seem to matter all that much.
Okay.
I just use it just
because that's what you're used to.
Yeah,
yeah. That's what you're. Yeah. Okay. All right.
It just happened to work, and just so you know, I mean, hookmark, it is not necessarily have to have Obsidian to use it. I mean, I could have taken.
You mean hook?
Yeah.
You mean hook? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it used to be called Hook, and now it's called Hookmark, like
Oh,
bookmark.
Hookmark. Now it's Hookmark. Okay, thank you.
Well, it's Hookmark, yeah, is the
Gotcha.
newer name. It used to be called Hook.
Gotcha.
So I could say use Hook to, let's go to that Apple Note and get that link. And I could say copy link, and then I can go over to things. And I could say, is there a little attachment field? And there's a notes field here. So I can actually use a hook link from inside things to go straight to Apple Note.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you. That's very good.
Yeah.
So on the Hookmark website, I
Yeah.
see that, and I put a link in the chat for the with the chart of the three. There's a free version and then a two paid version, two subscription versions. What version do you need to do all this?
There's a list of features on there, but I think for the linking to apps and things like that, you do need the Pro one. However, what I use myself is I'm a member of SetApp, and SetApp is, I don't know, are you familiar with SetApp? It's like a Netflix of popular applications, right? You pay a monthly fee, you get access to their whole catalog of applications. It's not very expensive, and it's got a lot of great stuff. And Hookmark is one of the things you get on that. So pretty much for the cost of, buying Hookmark, I can pay for most of a year of getting a bunch access to a lot of other things as well by getting it on SetApp.
And I see that Hookmark is a subscription anyway. The price is only for 12 months.
Yeah, that's for updates. You can, and I did buy it before it was on SetApp, and I paid, the price on it. You get updates for 12 months, but after 12 months, you just don't get any more updates. You still retain the functionality of what you've got up to that period. It's just you're buying it, period, and then you're getting a new updates up until that time, which is a kind of reasonable way to do updates. So if it's they do offer the full functionality, I think, for like a week of a trial, and I would suggest trying that and see if this is worth it to you. But yeah, Hookmark complements Obsidian very well, because Obsidian gives you a place to put those links for the most part, that gives you some top level bird's eye view of what you're doing. So let me go back to the presentation here. I'm struggling with this one. But anyway, what I want to say here, there's what I want. Multiple monitors, it's pain. Okay, so anyway, really the whole thing is here is on Obsidian, you can do a lot more in addition to what I've shown you, right? There's like literally 1,000 plugins where you can do anything, all kinds of functionality. You can make your notes into basically a database or all kinds of databases. You can customize the daylights out of how you access and find your notes. You can have calendars, you can have journals, you can have templates, you can have automation, you can have embedded searches into your notes, which is really nice because that lets me create a master note and do a search. It says any note that's linking to me, list here. And so it's like a search that happens it's just part of the note. So you can, every time you create a new, say, note that's related to your master note, it automatically shows up in the master notes list. However you want to make it work. It can do, I don't know.
We're not seeing your presentation right now.
Yeah, you're seeing, yeah, I get that. So yeah, I think that's really what I had to cover, and I'd like to know any more questions.
This strikes me as really interesting and very intriguing, and to a little bit it maybe strikes me as like using a program like OmniFocus, like you could get lost forever in all the nitty-gritty doing all the linking in the organization.
Mhm. It's interesting. I mean, it can be as simple as just a plain text note app if you don't want to do any more than that, right? You just really literally do whatever it is you want, and you can ignore 99% of it and it's fine. It will work great. So, but if you want to improve it, or you want to grow, and what happens is when you get more and more content, you start realizing, well, it'd be nice if I could do this. And the thing is, it will do that. You just start doing that as well. So,
Very cool.
yeah, this is not something you have to like understand all the ins and outs to begin. You can begin with just text and throw some headers in and some links. And that'll get you a long ways. And that's a lot more useful. Really, you'll find being able to link between notes becomes very, very powerful. And just what I've shown you here is enough to use it to do quite a lot. And as much or more than you'll get out of many basic note-taking apps, with a lot of room to grow. All right. Anything else?
All right, then.
All right, wrap it up. Thanks.